Well, welcome again to another Marcia Weeks show coming to you live from the beautiful island of Barbados. And a joy of mine to be here with you tonight. An unusual pleasure of mine, I must say, to be with you on Tuesday night. This is an extra special evening that we have. Of course, you know we're in the midst of the budget debates. Yesterday, we heard the Prime Minister present the budget to the Parliament of Barbados and to the people of Barbados. And this evening, we have the leader of the opposition responding and replying to that budgetary proposal by the Prime Minister yesterday. And in a few moments, we're going to be joining him in terms of his reply. And I'm just going to give a few minutes for more of you to join. So I'm going to encourage you to share and share quickly because we are up to about what? We're up to 88 people now. If I can get us up to about 250 people within the next few minutes, we'll be happy. We'll be happy to just go right into the national anthem. We'll do that in just a few minutes. Hi, Zaire Campbell. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so very much for your warm welcome. I really do appreciate your welcome. And Sir Alfred Benjamin. Alfred, I am going to have to look you up if I am ever in New York. I'm telling you, I have to. I have to. And you have to connect with me and let me know how to reach you so that if I'm ever there, at least I know I have somewhere where I can hang for a little bit. All right. So really great to have you back on again tonight. Good night to the loyal opposition as well, Judith Ann Clark. And I'm seeing here. Let me get my phone a little closer to me. Emerson Bapp, greetings from the UK. Emerson, indeed, welcome to the show tonight. I'm just going to try to pull it up on my phone so I can follow right along with you guys. I don't want to miss any of you. Marcia, hi Marcia, blessings to you as well. I receive them. I need as much of them as I can. So whatever you do, make sure you pray for me. All right, pray for all of us on the show. Sandra Carter, a real welcome and joy to have you back with us again. Cynthia Mon, Doriel Clark. I tell you, just in time. I like that one. Good night to you too and welcome. I should begin by saying welcome to the loyal opposition. That's really where I should have started. Welcoming all of you to the show tonight. We are up to 152 on YouTube, according to what I'm seeing. Yes, Gel Biz, welcome to you too. Good night to you and good night to all the patriots. Yes, absolutely. Let me just look back here and see how long people have been on here. Oh, my phone doesn't tell me. My other setting on my computer would have told me that, but I know some of you probably been on since 4 o'clock or something like that, waiting for us to join. David, welcome, and Everton Hunt. Heathcliff, welcome again. ADG, always great to have you with us. And Everton Hunt, yes, good to have you, Everton. I'm so glad you're here. And listen, we need you guys on Saturday. And I know during the show tonight, they're going to put up the ad for the march on Saturday. Of course, you would realize that last night, if you listened to the show, we did carry the Prime Minister's budget for a few minutes, and she certainly found that this show had gotten under her skin. She got very upset, and I can't say that she told lies here on this show. That wouldn't be parliamentary of me. And since we're the loyal opposition, we will maintain parliamentary decorum. But she obviously was a stranger to the truth last night when she indicated a number of the areas that even the opposition leader touched on tonight. The IDB matter, which she said we were relying on that. We did protest marches. We were relying on the ID card and all that rubbish. But we know that we have presented the evidence. So CG, welcome to you as well. Yes, Mr. Thorne is on fire. No theatrics, just reasonable questions and facts. Of course, they're going to do everything through this presentation over the next couple of days to defer all of what he is saying. That's going to be their plot and plan. So we will just stay focused. Michael Grant, good to have you as well. Zaire Campbell, and if there are any persons on here from the government who support the government, and you're not happy with us, welcome, welcome. We're glad that you're here. At least you're here, even if you're not happy with us. Rose 5111, welcome, welcome. So good to have you with us again tonight. And just trying to scroll down on my phone. Mimat 2017. Thank you so much for your welcome. Yes, he's doing a fantastic job, and he is getting under their skin because I'm hearing so many asides, and I don't know. I have to talk to Cynthia because Cynthia seems to be really getting upset. I don't know why. Good night, Marietta Ford. Thank you so very much. Yes, we're on fire tonight, and I tell you, there's going to be some fire tonight. We're going to be getting to that national anthem in just about 5 minutes. The leader of the opposition has the identical amount of time as the prime minister. I guess she didn't anticipate that he would be able to speak this long, but I tell you, he has been really, really very good. Yes, Marcia, he's been very, very, very good. His Harris, yes, licks like fire. Let me see now. How do you pronounce that? Be good and loyal. Yes, he is addressing the House now. I have started to watch him from 3 o'clock this afternoon. I have been listening very carefully to his replies. And how systematically he has disassembled all of their rhetoric and all of the stuff that they've been sharing. I just like the systematic manner in which he has dealt with each area. And I must say that Mr. Thorne is doing very, very well tonight. Unfortunately, I didn't get to be there today to welcome him to Parliament, but on the basis of the corsage, a beautiful corsage I see on his jacket, I have no doubt that somebody welcomed him this evening, and pinned that corsage on, a beautiful white corsage. Isn't that gorgeous? Beautiful. And a lovely blue shirt and a lovely flannel looking tie, and a lovely suit. Looks really, really dapper, I think is the word. I think that's the one we have. Yes, ma'am, truth will prevail, and I remember Tom Adams saying to my mom one day that a light will circle the earth 10 times while truth is putting on its shoes, but at some point, truth will get its shoes on, and it will start to get around the world. All right. So we know that we are going to be on point. Yes, Tyrone is not leaving a single stone unturned. He's getting he's getting them. Yeah, he's getting them very itchy. Yes, I can tell you he is. And I like the interaction. He's not allowing them to get under his skin. He's playing right along with them. They may have thought that they would have intimidated him tonight this evening. And as soon as we hit 250, we have 231. So come on, hurry up, share. I think it's how Marcia would put it. Yes, Barbadians are waking up. And I tell you, there's going to be, he spoke this evening of a groundswell. There is a groundswell of dissatisfaction in Barbados with this government. A groundswell. Everywhere I turn. Up to yesterday, I was in Carter's. Several people approached me and told us to keep doing the job you're doing. You're doing a great job, and we're learning so much, and we thank you for that. The 27 million. Yeah, that was a fact, Jelbiz. And not only that, the $188 million Barbados designated to the Prime Minister's office. For what? What does the Prime Minister do annually to deserve a budget of $188 million when only 130 or something million he mentioned is allocated to the social services, to help people who are impoverished and other things. Yes, good evening to you, Marcy, from London. But those things did stand out to me. Those figures did stand out to me. The White Oaks matter. A really absolute embarrassment. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the national anthem. I'm going to ask Dave to let that rip right away. And right after that national anthem, we are going to go to Mr. Thorne's speech. All right, so I'll try to share it here. If I can't, I will get Dave to do it from his end. All right, so Dave, let that national anthem roll, sir. Let it roll. Well, amen, amen. So we're going to go straight into Mr. Thorne's speech. I'm going to try to share it from here. You let me know that you're hearing it A-OK. And I'm going to trust Dave to put it right onto the screen for you to watch. Dave, I think you'll have to pull that in. You'll have to add it to the show. Right there you go. There you go. Now let me give you some volume.
Public about it. It is a private interest masquerading as a public entity. And you know that, Minister. You know that. But I'm not blaming you. Because I know you're not the author. I know the voice of Jacob. And I know the hand of Esau. You like that? You love that. You and I went to Sunday school, you know. You may recall that the Ministry, Housing, Lands and Maintenance, working with the NHC, has established a broad matrix that treats to the housing project over a 5-year period. To bring a more focused approach in the short term, several key sites have been selected and brought forward as opportunity spaces that will be able to accommodate the volume of housing required. To this end, the sites listed below in the table are to be allocated to Hope Inc. to facilitate your directed objectives. The voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau. You want me to read them, Mr. Speaker? Do the people of Barbados find an interest in this? That their precious lands, which every government used to put into the name of the National Housing Corporation, thou good and faithful servant, the National Housing Corporation, is deemed to be a failure in 2024, and a private company masquerading in the clothing of public status is handed these private lands. The voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau. Number 1, Branchbury St. Joseph, 10 acres. Projected number of solutions. Nobody, this government no longer builds houses, this government builds solutions. 61 solutions. And for the sake of the public that's not interested in that sexy language, 61 houses. Bright Hall, St. Lucie, 40 acres, 380 houses. Colleton, St. John, 27 acres, 324 houses. Cottage, St. George, 27 acres as well, 324. I know, I know what brought you to life. Look, they can fire you, you know. I can beg for you. I know this is not your voice. I know that. I understand the situation in which you find yourself. Honorable Speaker, please control the member for St. George South, who told this country that he's going to build 10,000 houses in 5 years. You want me to tell the country how many have been built, Mr. Speaker? In 2.5 years? It's not your voice. I know, I understand your position. But I will go quickly. And I can read all of them, but I will not bore you nor the public, Mr. Speaker. That the total acreage of lands being conveyed, thank you. The total acres of lands to be conveyed to Hope is in the sum of 478.2 acres of this precious Barbadian soil, where the blood of the slaves irrigate trees and bear sweet fruit. And along comes a private company masquerading with a public status. And a parliament of this country hands to that private company in masquerade 478.2 acres. And the people in this country should be pleased. And the people at National Housing Corporation should be pleased that they are to be sent home eventually, because that is what the government will do. It is going to send them home. And they have you presiding over this infelicity. These lands should remain and should be vested in the National Housing Corporation. I became a lawyer in 1984. One of my proudest moments was when my university colleagues came to me shortly after my admission to the bar. And they were moving into West Terrace houses. I told you that West Terrace, Oxnard's husband's conurbation is the result of education in this country. Understand that. And they were coming to me as a young lawyer. I felt so happy to get some work. And the conveyance used to be from housing to the purchaser. And there was a separate agreement for the building of the house. And then Mr. Stanton Gittins, he insisted on getting his money early, and he would run down to my office. 2 checks would come. No, not a PPP. Mr. Ideal Homes was the builder. And there were other companies that were building. The builders, the land was never conveyed to the builders. Honorable Member for Christchurch West, I know what I'm talking about. I believe the Speaker may have done some of those conveyances as well. And Mr. Gittins would run down to the office for the check, because the check would come from Barbados Mortgage Finance, and he would pay. I would hand it to him and wait for my client to pay me. And one day a lawyer called me and said, "Man, you very foolish. You must take your money out before you pay it to Mr. Gittins." I said, "No, I mean, the person trusted me. It's my colleague from university, and I allow them to pay me when the transaction was finished." But the point is, that is how housing typically and traditionally operated. That you vested the land in NHC, and NHC contracted the builder. And there were 2 transactions, a conveyance of land and an agreement to build a house. So the government never lost its control of the transaction. But today, in our beloved country, instead of giving the land to National Housing Corporation through this parliament occupied in majority by this government, is taking up the precious lands of this country in the sum of 478.2 acres and transferring it to hope. But there's despair yet to be revealed. And that hope, it calls itself, let me read the last paragraph. The NHC will very shortly reach out to you to arrange a series of visits that will allow your team to familiarize themselves with the development sites. You can imagine the NHC now writing to a company, a new company on the block, incorporated in 2020. 2020! And teaching them how to kill the NHC under this minister's charge. Watching the shifting. It's the voice of Jacob. You are not guilty. I find no fault in you. I understand what is going on, but it is not my understanding that is important. It is what the people of Barbados need to understand. The people of Barbados need to understand what is happening with their birthright. $60 million out of something called the Housing Credit Fund. Public monies, the Housing Credit Fund. $60 million later, $60 million later, that money has been paid to hope. And yet there's despair in this country. How many people moved in? I don't know today's date. The 19th, perhaps? All right. All right. The honorable member for St. Michael's East came in here and got himself in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. I remember it well. I felt very sorry for him. That day he attracted my deepest sympathy for what he endured. He came in here and called your solutions all kinds of names. We're not going to use the word houses, your solutions. And he came in here and unburdened himself. And I don't even want to repeat the words that he used in here, although I heard the words that were repeated to him elsewhere. And I felt sorry for him. He's not a bad man. He did not deserve that treatment, but he got it. But let us get back to the Housing Credit Fund, which exhausted its coffers in the amount of $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country, which has been paid to hope. And what has hope delivered? For $60 million. If the figure is not correct, please correct me. The voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. I know you're not Jacob. That land at Lancaster was valued at $18 a square foot. Hope got the lands at $2.50 per square foot. So it helps to be hopeful, and it helps to be hope. Land reduced in value when the honorable member for St. Philip North is being asked to pay exorbitant sums for her land. Lancaster is finding its land values reduced for the sake of a sale, a happy sale to a happy camper, to a friend, in the amount of $2.50. The taxpayers of this country need to know this. And $60 million later from the Housing Credit Fund, we have 131 solutions. Houses. 131 houses, and $60 million of the taxpayers' money has been paid out. I began by asking this government to give account. And this opposition has the right to ask this government to give account. This opposition has the right to ask this government to show transparency. That is a right that we have, and we will exercise it without fear. I am alone on this side, but I'm not lonely. The people of Barbados have sent me to do this work. This I hope I will. Every single one. It is not what I like. It is what is the truth. And I want you to admit through you, sir, that after 2.5 years, having promised to deliver 10,000 houses, 2,000 a year, so that at the rate you had planned to go, it should have been 4,000. And if we're approaching half of the year, you should have had 5,000 houses, my friend. But you have 131 houses. But nobody's perfect. But the amount of $60 million of the taxpayers' money, which has constructed 131 houses, account needs to be given to the people of this country. Give some account, either through the voice of Jacob or the hands of Esau. We want the truth. So don't shift around in your chair. I want the answers, not me. The people want them. Juravilla. I know you're the photographer, you know. I know. Yeah, I check the angle. Some boring foolishness is being talked to here. It's about like, Juravilla project. Houses out of Guyana. Juravilla. The people of Barbados saw them displayed at AgriFest a year or two ago. Beautiful little houses. And this ministry went down there and bought a whole heap of them. Incompetence is the word, you know. Incompetence, Mr. Speaker, is the word. That somehow they did not do their due diligence to discover that the Juravilla houses, that the cheap prices they were quoted did not include matters of the foundation. So that this ministry rushed after what looked like a good deal. This ministry went into a bargain basement. But the people of this country have not benefited. Those houses are, you will get a chance to speak. He will get a chance to speak, Mr. Speaker. And he will tell the people of this country where the Juravilla houses are located right now while I am here speaking on my feet. He will get a chance to tell the people of Barbados that not one Juravilla house, according to my information, has been occupied. Not one. The public didn't think it would get worse. The public did not think it would get worse. You know, during the St. George by-election, the famous statement was uttered, all big works got to come through me. Remember that? All big works got to come through me. You stop laughing. You frightened? The Prime Minister laughing. You can laugh now. I've come. I know you had him up there. You should keep him up there. Now, hope gets more interesting. I'm not going to call any names to embarrass anybody in here. Not going to call any names. I should or I should not? I should? No. I'm not going to. That's not. You see, I practice a certain level of decorum and decency. And I don't use the privilege of this place to abuse people. You not seeing it? I'm not going to call the name though. The CEO was paid $20,000 a month. The people cleaning the roads were paid $500 a week. The CEO has departed And we now have a new CEO. I'm not even going to call his name. He's a man from England. And I'm talking about hope, which is our national despair. I am told reliably, and you will not deny it, that the new CEO is getting $30,000 a month. And what is worse, under the charge of a prime minister who has to be concerned about our foreign reserves, he is being paid into a bank account in England. 30,000 Barbados dollars is being converted into pounds using our foreign exchange to pay him to do a job that any graduate from this University of the West Indies can do. Why do you think we have a management faculty up there for sport? For sport? What are these people doing? What is their brilliance? What is their competence? That in 2.5 years, they could only construct 131 houses for $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country. And you bring a man from England to do that simple job. Who is he? Is he like the man from BTMI? Will the man at the QH prove himself to be a guru? Never having worked in a hospital before? I don't use the privilege of this parliament to abuse people, but I want the people in this country to know the truth. 30,000 Barbados dollars. How much does that convert to, Mr. Speaker? I don't know. In pounds, we paying a man pounds sterling, not a cent in national insurance. And you know why we're not paying national insurance? Your CEO doesn't even have a work permit. He does not have a work permit. And that is what this government calls governance. Governance. There's another word for that, and it certainly is not governance. But there's a stench wafting through the corridors of power in this country. And the taxpayers' monies are being squandered on the basis of close personal relationships and friendships. $60 million later. $60 million later. If this were private, if Hope had gone into the banking market and borrowed the money, I wouldn't be here talking about this. They got taxpayers' money. They got $60 million belonging to the taxpayers of this country. Your Honor, I apologize for shouting, but occasionally I get angry.
I've heard that so many times, I don't remember.
Well, so much,
repetition, I don't remember.
so much is there to make the people of this country angry.
I've heard that so many times, countless times.
Countless times. I will lower my volumes from here on. All right, cool your passion, son. Cool your passion. You're not getting fired this evening. Let me come to the chairman. I dealt with the CEO who is getting his monies paid into a bank account in England. $30,000 belonging to the taxpayers of this country. Converted through the central bank into pounds sterling. And y'all can't give a little man a job cleaning the bus stand. What really is happening in Barbados? What is this negation of self? Why are we being treated in this country as if we have no worth? By this government that thinks it is such a good government, but that is self-perception. That is your reality. The people do not think that you are a good government. The people are afraid that this government has trammeled their rights and even their right to a voice, and that is why you heard what you heard last night. I come to the chairman. Not going to call his name either. But the chairman of Hope, who replaced the former civil servant, the former permanent secretary, not going to call his name either. I'm not going to use this chamber to disparage people or to bring them into disrepute. But the chairman apparently lives in South Africa, the chairman of Hope. And he is doing meetings, Hope meetings, the board meetings of Hope by Zoom. Let me pause and tell the public, through you, sir, that he used to be connected to Four Seasons. And you know the professor was at Four Seasons. The professor that is now doing weather forecasting, he has gone off to work in climate change. Not comedy hour at all. Not comedy hour at all. A South African is conducting board meetings at Hope by Zoom. Not sure how much he's being paid, but he used to be at Four Seasons. The Americans say connect the dots. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Minister, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You've been put on the spot. And if they try to remove you, even I will defend you. Your head on. Your head on. Your head is on. I hope you don't. I hope you don't suffer a similar fate. That's my comeback. Walk the straight and narrow, my friend. May I proceed, sir? The new finance consultant has a full-time job in another Caribbean island. I think it is St. Lucia. So Hope has now been exported into far-flung lands of despair. The chairman is in South Africa. The CEO is an Englishman without a work permit who receives his money, the taxpayers' money, in England. And the new finance officer is receiving $14,000 a month while she is in full-time employment in another Caribbean island. I'm not trying to disparage them. I am trying to ask this government to give account for public monies. And why 3 West Indians, and better yet, 3 young Barbadians, perhaps with a first degree or a master's in management, why can't those people do this simple work? But then it appears not to be that simple. Because in 2.5 years, having been given 478 acres of the land of the people of Barbados, they can only deliver 131 houses. And this government, in arrogance, believes that it is so well loved. I quote the poet again, where are the men seized in this wind of madness? What is happening in this country? What is this squandermania all about? Where are public monies going? $60 million is not a bus fare. $60 million is a lot of money. It is not as much as 188 million, but it is a lot of money. And then we telling weekly paid workers that we can't give them a job. And we could bring all manner of mankind into this country. And even if they're not in this country, we can pay them these large salaries in an economy that is struggling, except that the government believes it is buoyant. And that is the sordid tale of this thing called hope. They really need to rename it. They really do need to rename it. But as it transpires, the houses will have to be conveyed at less than cost. In other words, hope has been so badly managed that the houses, if they are to sell those houses at a profit, they would have to push them down. So what is the compromise? The compromise now has been to give the houses to certain people. Lucky people. Nameless people. I'm not going to abuse them. I don't use the privilege that I enjoy here to abuse people. I don't do that. But there is a lucky list. And as I said, in my mother's house, there used to be the plaque. The book of life is my name written there. There's a book of life at Lancaster. Minister, is my name written there? Am I one of those lucky people? But we will all find out in the fullness of time who are those lucky people who will get houses at below cost. I'm happy for them. But where's the hope? Where's the taxpayers' $60 million? Where is it? Being paid every month to two people in exile, one in South Africa and one in St. Lucia. And our poor people's children who have an education can't get a job and have to go off to Canada and have to go off to the United States and England and the Caribbean because this government is presiding over an administration that is excluding local talent, that is marginalizing young Barbadians who have a right, whose parents made mountainous sacrifice, like your parents, Minister, and your parents and mine, to give us an education, and this government denies them and brings these expensive executives. There's a trend. BTMI, QEH, Hope. Whose turn is next? Whose turn is next? To have these gurus implanted on our public corporations at the expense of talented and bright Barbadians. I move on. I move on. It does not make me happy that the Ministry of the Attorney General, and I'm on the subject of governance, has not seen it fit, and I said this a few minutes ago, has not seen it fit to amend the Sexual Offences Act as the court prescribed should be done. This court made a ruling which fundamentally altered, I beg your pardon, the tenor and the content of that legislation. That legislation now contains what we call a lacuna. There's a hole in the law. And this Attorney General has not seen it fit to do his duty and to amend that legislation months later. It's a simple amendment. Somebody could do it for him. He could call me. He could call the Honorable Speaker. Not many more esteemed and qualified in the law than the gentleman who happens to be our Speaker. Call the Speaker. He brings the cybercrime bill in here. That is recalled. I could say case closed. But when I say case closed, it does not mean that I am closing my presentation. Those were most unhappy words uttered a few weeks ago. Case closed. A matter occupied the attention of the courts in this country a few months ago. And this country started to ask questions about that case in relation to ministerial conduct. I didn't ask them. this country started to ask questions about ministerial conduct, about the association of private contractors with ministries. And it is my duty as leader of the opposition to ask the questions, the answers to which the people are demanding. I defy, through you, sir, this Prime Minister, the right and the authority to close any case in any court. A Prime Minister does not have that authority. A Prime Minister heads one of the constitutional bodies. It is high office, but that body must remain separate from the courts. And it falls outside of the power of any Prime Minister to determine that a case is closed. It is an undue influence against the independence of the judiciary. That is what separation of powers means. It is literal separation of powers. And I say it in here all the time, the cabinet, the parliament, and the judiciary are separate, except that members of the cabinet are also members of this parliament. And so we say there is an incestuous relationship that is allowed between the cabinet and the parliament. But there must be no contamination of matters of judicial interest. Members of the executive must stay far from the administration of justice. Far. And a Prime Minister cannot deem any case closed. Cannot. It is an interference with the judicial function, the constitutional judicial function that is exclusive to the judiciary. And that's the first point I make in relation to that sad case. All I will do for the public of Barbados, all I will do is that I will read Section 8.2 of the Prevention of Corruption Act. That's all I will do. I'm not here to embarrass. I have a public duty. And when the public asks questions, even with a sense of decorum, I must give those answers. I remember well the debate when the Prevention of Corruption Act came to this place. We were at Worthing at the time. And I made the point that we as politicians, whatever is our self-perception, the public really does not think we are angels. That we come to this job with reputations that are not always, I don't want to use the word savory, but I think I will. Politicians are seen as people disposed, whether by occupation of high office or by personal proclivity. We are seen as people disposed to wrongdoing. That's how we are seen. I don't know if we don't understand that. And that is what I said during that debate. This is what the law says. A person exercising public functions who solicits or accepts an advantage as an inducement to or reward for or otherwise on account of his given assistance or using his real or perceived influence in the promotion, procuring, or execution of, or for the payment of the price or other considerations stipulated or otherwise provided for in any contract for the promotion, procuring, or execution of any contract with a public authority for the supply of goods, services, or works is guilty of an offense. It is beyond a Prime Minister to determine that any case is closed. This is the province of the Director of Public Prosecutions. This is the province of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And we are not saying that anyone is guilty, but we make a point based on principle that there must be separation of powers if this constitution is to have its original meaning. That executive powers and judicial functions are clean and separate. And that it constitutes a trespass when an official as high as the office of Prime Minister ventures in to matters of this nature and says, case closed. I don't have that power. A Prime Minister doesn't have that power. The Speaker doesn't have that power. What you are doing, you're exercising undue influence, holding high office against a director of public prosecutions, who is an officer within the administration of justice, within the judiciary. And there's only one person in this country who can determine that a case is closed. And that is the director of public prosecutions. She or he, or she in this case, is the only person with the authority to go to a court and initiate or to stop a case. One person in this country has that power, the director of public prosecutions. So when those words, case closed, were uttered, it was a fundamental breach of constitutional law. It was a breach of duty. It was a breach of power. All I will say on that legislation, and I remember the debate well, the honorable member for Christchurch East, when he was in the debate, he said, even the burden of proof is reversed. I remember it well. In other words, that the person who is charged for an offense under this legislation has to prove his innocence. Normally in a court, the prosecution must prove the guilt of the accused. This legislation is so serious that it falls on the accused to prove his innocence. That is what that member, honorable member for Christchurch East, meant when he said the legislation is so serious that even the burden of proof is reversed. In other words, Mr. Speaker, there is a presumption of guilt. There is a presumption of guilt. And the person charged must prove his innocence. I thought I had to say that for the benefit of the public who maintain a vested interest in this matter. Your Honor, the time passes and I have a little more to say. I will cut it. And just hope that while the Attorney General is again trying to get my attention, and I will ignore him, except to say to you, sir, that I hope that when they bring this Republican Constitution, it really is a constitution that reflects republicanism. And the features of Republican government, you know, we've been around here calling ourselves a republic 2.5 years later. We don't have a constitution that is a Republican constitution, except by the theory of what we call presidentialism. So we do have a constitution. We do have a Republican constitution, but it contains Westminster content. And that is our dilemma presently, that we are a republic with a constitution that became Republican only through the theory of presidentialism. In other words, you made the Governor General president. And it has not traveled beyond that. There's still the spirit of Westminsterism within the Constitution of Barbados. And it must now be considered a dereliction of duty when government's principal legal advisor, 2.5 years into republicanism, and this country cannot see a Republican constitution apart from the theory of presidentialism. That is where you are as a lawyer, sir. And you going into the courts out there arguing Westminster law within the context of presidentialist republicanism. That is a dilemma for you as a lawyer. but let the Attorney General give account to you and to this country. And what is the nature of the consultation? Has it been sufficiently public? Or are they cloistered in private rooms, deciding the powers that a prime minister will have, and the powers that a cabinet will have, and the powers that a parliament will have? What is going on? I heard the prime minister a few weeks ago say that she favors a system of national parliamentarians. I hope I don't live the day to see it. I hope I don't live the day to see it, because republicanism is about erasing elitist structures. And we are now offering, perhaps in casual chat, but please, Attorney General, through you, sir, please reject your Prime Minister's suggestion. Let us reduce it to a fireside chat that is no more than that. But the public awaits this constitution, and so do I. And so do all free men who are interested in justice. When will it come? What is its content? Will the public hear of its content before you bring it? Or will you come and drop it in Parliament one day and use your numbers, your overwhelming numbers, to impose it, to foist it on the people of Barbados? Is that what you will do? Or will you take a center spread or several spreads from the nation and GIS? And will you use social media to circulate it among Barbadians so that they can sit and read it? Lawyers and laymen all. It will be written in English. And it is about fundamental rights, freedoms, and obligations. And this government thinks that it is right if it intends to ambush the people of this country with a new so-called Republican constitution. Tell us its content. Give us a week or two to read it before we can say yay or nay. What this government is doing in relation to that constitution is wrong. And I say it is wrong. Your Honor, I had a few more things to say. I recognize the hour. I had no intention of being on my feet at this time. I apologize if I have been excessive, boring as well, yes. I expect that from you. I expect that from you, so that I will curtail the additional subjects that I had intended to address. And I will just repeat that I am troubled, more troubled than they are by the content of what I have said. I know they're troubled. I know they're disturbed. I know they're dejected. I know they're angry. I know they're angry. I know they're angry at the disclosures that have been made about the infelicities in this government. I know they're angry about the possible corruption. I know they're angry about the possible corruption that exists at the heart of this government. I know they're upset about it. But it is my duty to bring it to the attention of the people of this country and to tell the people of this country that this government has not only mismanaged the economy, that this government has not only manhandled matters of society, but that this government is more than likely engaged in infelicitous conduct in relation to public monies. More than likely. And Mr. Speaker, I want to express deepest gratitude to you for giving me the time that you have given me. I'm obliged to you, sir.
Honourable Member for Christchurch, Essential.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. As I begin my contribution to
Let me move away from the budget speech at this time. I hope you can hear me. I trust you're picking me up A-OK. Just checking my live chat to make sure that we have moved away. Just confirm in the chat that we are free. Thanks. Great. Okay. So, thank God. Well, yes, Esther Blue, what a rebuttal from a well-learned gentleman. And I don't expect, I mean, I think that there are a lot. I'm just going to close the tab with that now. I think there are a lot of very angry members of Parliament in the House of Parliament at this particular point of time. Well done, Ralph. A lot of exposure has happened this evening that the people of Barbados had, I would have to say, you now appreciate the value of this show. You now appreciate what we have been doing over the past several months. Myself, Caswell, Marcia, Maxine, Kimar, Rose, Glyne in recent months, in recent weeks, and all of our guests that have been on. You now begin to appreciate. It's good for you to hear within an objective context the same things that we have been saying on this program. And I am expecting some of the others to join me in just a few moments. I'm sure that they'll be on. I'm sure Caswell will be on. I'm sure Marcia will be on. I'm sure Rose will be joining us. I expect Kimar will be joining us as well in just a few minutes. And but my goodness, I mean, there has been so much. I was trying to make some notes, and I'm actually going to have to go back and listen to this reply. I really don't want to hear anything anybody else has to say. That's the honest truth. I don't want to hear anything anyone else has to say. And here's why. Because yesterday, for 15 to 20 minutes, the Prime Minister chastised this show. She didn't call it by name, but she talked about people who were walking up and down the country and marching and on social media. She meant this show. Don't fool yourself and don't let anybody fool you. She meant this show. And she had the audacity to suggest that we were misinforming the country, misinforming people, misrepresenting the truth, and that what we were saying was incorrect. Well, Mr. Thorne substantiated every single thing we have been saying, from the ID card back to the cybercrime bill, back to the matter to do with the IADB, back to the matter of Springer, back to the matter of Lester Vaughan. He justified and substantiated every single thing that we have been saying on this show. And we have not collaborated. I can tell you this for a fact. We have not collaborated with the leader of the opposition at all. And you know what I find interesting? And I'm waiting. I'm anticipating the others joining me, because we are going to discuss the content of his response. Those of us that are here are going to take a look at the content of his response to the Prime Minister. But you know what I found was telling? Can I tell you what I found was telling? Good night to you too as well, Queen McQueeness. Okay. Yes, thank him, Mr. Ralph Thorne, for speaking out and representing the Barbadian public and exposing the folly of the rich who think that the poor must be under their feet. Here's what I found telling. What I found telling was that during his speech, not a single person rose to their feet on a point of order, accusing the leader of the opposition of misleading the House. Not on a single point that he made. Not on a single accusation that he leveled. Not on a single requirement of an explanation and accountability that he spoke and mentioned of. Not the Prime Minister, not the Attorney General, not the Minister of Housing, not the Minister of Tourism, not the Minister of Agriculture. Not a single person rose to their feet on a point of order and suggested that he was misleading the House. That is telling. What it says to me is that they know that what he has been saying was the truth. They cannot stand on a point of order because they know that what he's saying is the truth. And this is the evidence that the people of Barbados now have concerning the credibility of this show. The credibility of this show. I would ask Dave if he could put it up. Dave, there's someone asking for the links, to put up the links on for this broadcast. If you can put it up in the chat for them, Dave. They're asking for the link to this show because they want to send it out. We have 912 people already on this show, and don't even know how many on Facebook and on Instagram. But listen, do you know that last night, the largest number of persons that were on the live presentation of the Prime Minister, I think, rose to a little over 300 people. Tonight, the number of persons that were on YouTube, the Barbados Parliament YouTube channel, watching the response of the leader of the opposition was in excess of 2,100. That ought to send a message to the government. Tell them to forget attacking this show and spend the time explaining to the people how Duraville houses are being given away and where they are, how hope was given. Could you imagine the government taking up Barbadians' land? It does not belong to the Barbados Labour Party. I made a statement to the former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Owen Seymour Arthur, when I had to address as a Minister of Religion one of the conferences that was held at the St. Joseph Secondary School. And I said to the Prime Minister then that Barbados does not belong to the Barbados Labour Party, and the Barbados does not belong to the Democratic Labour Party. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the people and all that dwell therein. I said that to the Prime Minister in my presentation, so that the lands of this country do not belong to the Barbados Labour Party. They are vested before we became a republic. They were called the Crown lands. That is, that they belong to the government. And if they belong to the government, that means they belong to the people of Barbados. And the government took up the people of Barbados' land, sold it to Hope for a little over $2 a square foot. You cannot get land in this country now, hardly below $10, $12 a square foot. And government land is generally sold around $5 a square foot, to the best of my knowledge, and I stand to be corrected. But they sold the people of Barbados' land to Hope for a little over $2 and then left it for Hope to make a profit off of it. We have received some information tonight that should have every Barbadian, Barbados Labour Party supporter, Democratic Labour Party supporter, APP supporter, no supporter of any party should have Barbadians exceptionally angered and annoyed when you cannot get a piece of this land in this country for anything less than $10 a square foot, and they can pick up the land of Barbados and vest it in a company whose CEO gets $30,000 a month Imagine that. And who's, if I read it correctly, if I understand it correctly, whose chairman lives in South Africa and a consultant who is holding another job in another country, $14,000 a month. That is insanity. And if that does not lend itself to the definition of corruption, I do not know what does. I am saddened. I used to be a member of the Barbados Labour Party, and I am embarrassed. I am saddened to see what it has become. And it contains one or two very good people, one or two well-meaning people. I am sorry to see people like Sandra Husbands wrapped up in this rubbish. I cannot believe what I have heard tonight. Black belly sheep being exported. Yes, Don Reed. Imagine that. Black belly sheep. And Mr. Thorne, I didn't hear anybody get up and say he was misleading the House. He said that those black belly sheep were kidnapped in the dead of night and exported to Guyana. And now there is someone having to be sent to Guyana because they are dropping dead in Guyana from some foot disease or something of the sort. And we don't even have the export of semen of the black belly sheep going on here in Barbados. This government, what kind of monster is the Barbados Labour Party? I don't know, Don. All I know is that God don't sleep and God don't slumber. That is all I know. That is all I know. They could not get up. You're right, Lucinda. They couldn't. Not a man rose to his feet on a point of order and said that he is misleading the House. Not one. That's why I don't want to hear a single response from a single one of them, because they're all, I can't say it here on this platform, because according to the Prime Minister last night, she was talking about how we could set up and down the country and say what we have to say. But that is because we made her pull back the cybercrime bill. This show made them put that back to committee, because we exposed what they were going to do in this country so that this show could not say a word. You could not say a word. Not one of you could have posted on Instagram, Snapchat, Telegram, Signal, WhatsApp, nothing you could have posted on in disagreement with the government. Go and ask the people, I think it is where it is in Nigeria and one or two other countries. Go and ask the people in the United Kingdom concerning the matter of the cybercrime bill. Go and ask them. That is what we almost had foisted upon us had this show not exposed it. But we did. And thank God there were those who rallied around what was exposed. And, they went after Marcia, thinking that this is about Marcia Weeks. This show is not about Marcia Weeks. This show is about the people, the citizens of this country, whom she has given a voice to. That is what Marcia has done. So if you're going to go after anybody, go after the over 1,300 people that show up on this show every time we are airing, and go after the 8,000 to 10,000 that watch this show after we are finished and watch it on YouTube. That's what you would have to do. The PM was present for his speech. Yes, she was. She was sitting there. He referred to her on several occasions. She was sitting there, and on a couple of occasions when the camera pulled out, zoomed out, you saw her sitting there, and the Attorney General sitting there, and the Deputy Prime Minister sitting there, because they thought they would have, especially the Prime Minister thought that she would have intimidated Ralph by her presence. She's that kind. Let me be kind, because he made a statement which I want to endorse, and I want to pattern. I am not going to get here and say anything disparaging concerning the Prime Minister. I'm not going to call her by name or any of them by name. I'm not going to do that. I think I stepped out on that limb last night, and I am going to honor the leader of the opposition's example. But he, just like this show, every time it airs, this show is an education for Barbadian people. The leader of the opposition's presentation today was an education for the people of this country. And as I said, whether you are Barbados Labour Party supporter or Democratic Labour Party supporter or an APP supporter or supporter of no political party, everything that Mr. Thorne said tonight should concern every single Barbadian. $188 million designated this year to the Prime Minister's office. How many people the Prime Minister got in her office? How many consultants? And people have been sent home as a result of the Burt plan, which was not homegrown. Don't let nobody fool you. That was foisted upon this country by the International Monetary Fund, who told the government, you have to cut your labor force by XYZ. Then you're going to turn around and hire consultants and pay consultants $130 or more $1,000 a year, a month. You're going to turn around and pay White Oaks $27 million US dollars, 54 million Barbados dollars for consultancy that the Financial Times of the world, the experts of the world, said is a travesty, that nobody, they compared it. I can't even remember the words that the leader of the opposition, mentioned. I cannot even recall. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you very much. We'll keep that, and hopefully, my goodness, that is such a long discourse. I'll have to read this another time, but maybe when you come on tonight or tomorrow night, Glenn, you will be able to share on that. So I'm waiting for the others to join me. It is 18 minutes after 8, and they've left me very lonely, very lonely here tonight. But I am not alone, because I have over 1,100 of you with me here on this show tonight. Yes, 1776. People are starting to wake up fast. This is not information they can deny. And I repeat, not a single member of parliament, not one, rose to their feet on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, the member for Christchurch South, I think he is, the leader of the opposition, is misleading the House. Not one of them got up on a correction. You know why they couldn't? Because they knew he was telling the truth. If he was telling a lie, they could have easily gotten up off their seat, moved the point of order, pointed to the particular documentation, and indicated that the leader of the opposition is misleading the House concerning the matter. The Minister of Housing promised 10,000 houses in 5 years, 2,000 houses a year, has not even got close to 1,000 houses in the last 2 years. Yeah, PM told Mr. Thorne it is cold soup. That is her disrespect, not of Mr. Thorne, her disrespect of the Barbadian public and the taxpayers' money. That is not her money. That is not coming out of her bank account or her father's bank account or anybody's account to do with her. That is coming out of the account of the people of Barbados. 67 people on a plane to Lyman, Dubai. Barbadian public, the Barbados public, taxpayers' money is paying for that. And the trip to Rihanna's event in the United States, taxpayers' money is paying for that. The government has to give the people of Barbados an account of the usage of the monies in this country. Yes, Donnie, we are at a loss for words after listening to Mr. Thorne. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And they're upset. They're extremely angry. You're absolutely correct. They're extremely angry because they have been exposed. They have been exposed tonight. They can't say a word. He told them, "I am not alone, but I am not." He said, "I'm alone, but I am not lonely." You are correct. Absolutely. I tell you, this, you know, there is an old saying that I used to hear: "Let sleeping dogs lie." You know, I believe that one of the things that really fueled Mr. Thorne in his passion of presentation tonight was the attack that the Prime Minister levied on this show last night. She could have gone through her presentation and had nothing to say about this show, but she dared to chastise the public of Barbados, the citizens of this country, for asking a question. And I'm telling you tonight, the people are not happy. And I'll tell you, after Mr. Thorne's presentation, I do not want to go outside of my house. I really don't. I believe there's a level of anger out there that I don't want anybody to mistake me for the prime minister. Really, I know I'm a little taller and I'm a little slimmer, and I am definitely a male. I'm definitely Marcia. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
You just popped up from nowhere at all. You see,
Oh,
listen, look, why are you doing this with me every time? Every time I put on something, you come in with an almost near color. But listen, if you look at my shirt, you can tell I'm going to ease up a little bit. You see, it look like it on fire.
yes.
Mr. Thorne was on fire tonight. I am telling you.
Wow.
I
Yes,
am
yes.
telling you.
I was listening to you as I was getting ready to come on. I had classes. Let me
Uh-huh.
just greet everybody. Good
Please,
night,
please.
everybody who's joined. This is the Marcia Weeks show, and this is a special edition. I want to thank Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, His Excellency, Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, for moderating for all of us. There are people at the parliament, there are people at home who are watching, and they're getting themselves ready to come on tonight.
You mean
Guys,
more?
yeah, it's going to happen. They're getting themselves ready to come on, and but you are going so great. I hate to break your flow, so continue.
No, man. No. I
Continue.
know you have to talk, Marcia. You have to talk. Please.
Well, what I want to say, coming off of your fire, Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, His Excellency, what I want to say tonight is the march on Saturday should be burst.
Yes.
This is the first march that we're asking, that one of the things that we are demanding is the resignation of the Prime Minister of Barbados.
Yes.
This is the first march, and this is going to be Saturday at 10 o'clock. Now, we don't have a whole lot of money to be advertising anything, and there are over 1,000 of you, there are almost 1,200 of you on here tonight. And if we could get all 1,200 of you there, are you motivated enough to get out there tonight on Saturday? Are you motivated enough? Saturday, March 23rd, where we meet right there at MASSY Car Park, Kensington. Are you agitated enough? Are you ready to say enough is enough? I listened to part of the speech because I had classes. I had an accounting class, so I missed quite a bit of the speech. Okay. But let me tell you something, the comments that are coming through, and if he was going anywhere the way he started, I'm telling you, this is, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And we continue to pray, we continue to stay humble, and we continue to agitate, we continue to fight. I want to say something to us Barbadians, those of you who say I didn't like that he went to a party, and I'm not sure about Rob Thorne, and I'm not sure about this and so on. I want to say something to you tonight. Can you imagine if he had not crossed?
Wow.
Can you imagine he had not crossed, and all of this would remain right there secretly underneath someplace somewhere?
Yes.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what happens in a country, Barbados, when there's no opposition? This is what happens when there's no opposition. When there's no opposition, the kind of speech that you heard today in Parliament, you would not have heard it.
No, not at all.
And the kind of agitation that we had on here, as he rightfully said, there was an opposition outside of Parliament before there was one in Parliament.
That's
he actually said that. Yeah.
Yes.
There was an opposition outside of Parliament before there was an opposition in Parliament, and that's you. He's talking about you. The challenge that he's given, that we're given tonight, is we now have to take this further.
Yes.
It's in our hands. He's the only person in there, but we are the ones who employed them. We're the ones who put them there. What will we do with this information? Where are the Esthers? Where are the Jacobs? Where are the people who are going to take this further? We now hear all of this. We are responsible for what we hear. Who is going to say, here am I? I'm ready to take this further. And how we do that, get out to the march.
Yes.
The march is not about any political party. The march is about our country. We want our country back.
Yes.
We want this country back.
We
You hear
want
what
our
I tell
country
you?
back.
This country, we want it back. We want our country back. That's what we want.
Yes.
And there's no amount of intimidation that is going to stop us from getting our country back. None.
Nope. Not one. Not a bit. Not a bit.
Not one. So I want to hear you guys say in this chat, those of you who are coming, of the almost 1,200 of you that's coming, let me hear of you, how many of you are on tonight. How many of you are coming? We're trying to get Mr. Thorne on tomorrow. I know he must be very tired, but we'd like to get him on tomorrow, however long, however short, that you can ask him questions. I've asked him for that already on Wednesday. We're dedicating that to him to come on, and not because we are promoting a particular party, but we are supporting the concept of an opposition. The idea of an opposition is what we are celebrating tonight. Yes. And
Absolutely.
what we're going to be tomorrow night when he comes, we're going to ask questions. I also have another announcement to make, that on Thursday at 10 o'clock, Unity Workers Union, we're going to have a press conference, Dr. Ferdinand. There'll be a press conference there. You want to tell the people about the press conference, Dr. Ferdinand?
Well, I was just about to ask you, tell us what that press conference is going to be about, Marcia. Tell us, let the people hear. Let's hear.
Yeah. The press conference is going to be about those people that are forgotten in this country. One of those groups of people that's forgotten in Barbados. The ones that the Prime Minister, in our remarks last night, just basically flashed her hand and said, oh, they don't, it's conspiracy. Doesn't happen. A set of people who are hurting terribly in this country, in their physical body, they're sick. A lot of them are sick. A set of people in this country who have doctor bills probably as high as the ceiling. Yeah, to the ceiling. That press conference is being a voice to that group of people, and those are the people that a lot of other people jeer and say that they are making up stories, and that they're conspiracy theorists. It's the people that receive that thing in their arm and that are sick. It's those people, and this show will continue to be a voice for the voiceless. We will continue to provide a platform. So we are holding a press conference, inviting the other media houses to hear some of these stories. Dr. Ferdinand, some of the persons who are going to, who want to share, they're scared. They're scared because they live in a country where they feel intimidated. They live in a country where they know they have a government job and their mother died because of what they received, but they're afraid to speak about it publicly because they're worried that they might lose their job. That is the kind of victimization that happens in this country, where people are scared.
But Marcia, just for those people, because some of them might very well be watching the show tonight.
Yes.
Just for those people, as we watch overseas, you see sometimes CNN and MSNBC bring on a person and they will give them a fictitious name. And they will say that these, the name is not the name of the person. We need to protect their privacy and we need to secure that, so that maybe we shouldn't allow any pictures to be taken and we shouldn't allow any real names to be given. because what you are saying is absolutely true, Marcia. The intimidation that our people are living with in this country, and there are people who have suffered at the hands of this government already because they have spoken. Some have spoken to you, some have spoken to me, some have spoken to Caswell and others that have lost their jobs. Now, how they've lost their jobs is strategically done, so it doesn't appear, because Mr. Franklin has educated us with regards to that matter, with the chief labor officer and so forth. So they have gone about it in a particular way. Marcia, you remember during the pandemic how persons' jobs were threatened so that people were held under duress. And now some of those people are suffering. I love that soup bowl that you're using. I hope you did some for me as well. Anyhow,
It's a cup. It's a cup.
yeah, I know. And some of the people today now are suffering because they wanted to hold their jobs. And we have international support, Marcia. The evidence is overwhelming concerning what these people have suffered and are suffering, to the point of actually some of them having family members who have died. And I am going to do what I can to protect those people. I'm not going to use it because I think you would have heard Mr. Thorne repeatedly tonight express the fact that he's not going to call anybody's name because he will not use the platform to do any chastising of any individuals and so on. So just in case, we want those persons to know not to be afraid. Not to be afraid. Come forward. They're not alone. You're not alone. I am going to be there. Marcy is going to be there. God knows who else is going to be there. Maybe some of the 1,100 people are going to be there too. I don't know. But we are going to be there. You're not alone. You're not alone. All right. So,
and the media will be there. If you have a story you want to share, if you're afraid to share the story yourself, you can message me, 236-7000, and we will help you to write out your story and get your story out there. Okay.
Marcy,
we're here to help you. Yes.
Is there email address as well, or you will share that? Is there email address that if they wanted to do their story and email it to you,
yes,
could they do that?
Just WhatsApp me and we will get all of that to you.
Right.
I don't have all of that information. So
that's okay. 236-7,000, right? 236.
236. I was saying 236-7,000. That is the WhatsApp number, and everybody's on WhatsApp. And just WhatsApp me, and we will take it from there and try to help you to get your story out there. Okay, 236-7,000. If you have been injured by the thing they put in the arm, we also want to hold the government accountable, because we were promised by the Prime Minister of this country that if persons who had suffered from any injury at all, that the government will do a one-time payout for those people. And many persons are still waiting to receive that, or even to be acknowledged, as you saw that that was pushed aside last night generally. So we want to make this a real issue, and to remind the government of the promise that they've made to these sick people in this country, another group of persons that are being marginalized and laughed at, and mocked in this country. So we're going to stand up with them. And if those of you who want to come to join us at the press conference, you're free to come. It's the Unity Workers Union right there in Belleville. It's 6th Avenue, number 5. Again, WhatsApp, and you get all the information. We'll have enough chairs there for you. 236-7000, and the media will be there. I'm seeing Mrs. Rose Garvin is here with us. Good night, Mrs. Garvin.
Good night, Rose. Good night. So good to see you. You look so much better tonight than you did last night. Oh my goodness. You're muted. We can't hear you. You need to unmute. Are you hearing her, Marcia?
Unmute. No, I'm not hearing her. You have to unmute.
She is so excited tonight. She has lost she has lost the ability to use the technology because she's so excited tonight.
May start all over again. Good
Yes, please
evening.
do.
Good evening.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I am so delighted to be here. At Pastor Ferdy, I did not abandon you or left you alone, but I
I
was
was
so
alone but not
riveted.
lonely.
And I said, like the leader of the opposition declared, and I sent you a message and I said, I'm going to join you, but
Thank you.
it was so riveting
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
listening to the leader of the opposition. And I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I'm feeling better than because it felt like we had no Sherpa last night. We had no one to help do the heavy lifting, but in came the leader of the opposition and really energized us, really pull things together that we've been seeing so long here, and using the privilege and the floor of the House and his capacity as leader of opposition to share things with the Barbadian public and those further afield, non-Barbadians, all those who are listening in on what's happening here and bringing to the House the evidence to support what he was sharing. So it was really, really someone in our chat, another chat that we have for our group, said that, I said it was a long time in coming. It was a long time waiting for, but the sound, the jazz sound, but change gonna come.
Yes, change is gonna come. Yes.
Simone is saying, and I like to hear a different view. There's someone was saying Easy D, and I would love to know what he thought. He was saying that the speech he thought could have been better. Easy D is saying that one of our he comes on all the time, doesn't always agree with us, with everybody, but he didn't like the budget reply, and I'm looking for his comment to read it and to let's look at that, because he's saying I didn't like the budget reply, didn't think it had any substance in it, and so I'm wondering. He says he says I was disappointed with Ralph's budget response, but it was a typical lawyer's response. A lot of innuendo, hearsay, and lacking in substance. The debt DLP left was well over 250 million. So what are our thoughts about that? Do we think that the speech lacked substance?
May respond here quickly. And I told someone as we were standing outside of Parliament gates to welcome the leader of the opposition. You would remember how I ended last night, that if I were the leader of the opposition, I would begin by asking for the budget. And I must laud him for responding to a budget that was not given.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's my thoughts.
I must laud him. I know that he is clever. I know he's intelligent, but I must laud him and compliment him for his proactive approach, the short time in which he would have had to prepare for what was presented last night, and to pull things together, to me, a non-existent
Budget.
budget. It is not the kind of budget that we have become familiar with prior to 2018. At least previous administrations, as Caswell pointed out, and I try to point out in my layman understanding, that a budget gives a review and it indicates the way forward and how the monies will be raised to run in the next year, and the various ministries and projects. And therefore, if one, tell me what are the innuendos when facts were presented, when information was given, documents were given, we could see that Mr. Thorne, the leader of the opposition, he's a lawyer, and he would not come into the assembly to share any information that was not substantiated. You mean asking where monies that are allocated to the Prime Minister office, and he could give the amount and ask for an account of that money? Is that an innuendo? I certainly say no. It's he's speaking to the persons who have been laid off and seeing how they could have been kept on, and given an amount that would have kept them from the money spent on consultancies. Is that an innuendo? I wouldn't say that. It's asking about the housing projects and pointing to the non-existing houses that were said to be built, and could give us locations where these were to be built and the amount of monies allocated. Would we call that non-factual? Would we call that in an innuendo? Pray tell us that someone, I'm here wrong. But I think that the presentation was quite factual, and it was in keeping with a presentation from someone in the opposition, and again, the lone voice in the opposition, who is seeking information on behalf of over 250,000 persons out there, and persons who would have voted this government in, and others who want answers. That is my take. I jumped in there quickly because that is my take. And I listened. I started to listen from, and Massy, you would know, from standing at the first word go, from standing outside of the Parliament gate, all in the car, all home, put up my phone in the kitchen when I was preparing meals. And so I did not find any digress apart from the asides and the asides he was inclined to attend to. And what I would say is that he did a good review of the critical areas of concern. And the questions he kept asking for, please explain all those people who went to Dubai and what it cost the taxpayers. Please explain what are the returns on that. Please indicate what are the returns on that expensive trip to Dubai, and on and on. I found even when he talked about the Hayat, he said that the Hayat was to be built 4 times now. And so he came with information that we would not have had or not have been aware of, and he presented them on our behalf. So I would say that thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. And we have come away, I hope, wiser than when we started out at around 3 this afternoon. That's my take.
Yeah. You know, Miss Cor, I think a lot of people are agreeing with you. I say that it would be difficult for him to, you know, there wasn't a budget given really. So there was nothing for him to, in terms of dollars and cents, because that's what, you know, you're looking at how you're going to close that gap. And we weren't told that. So, you know, so he used I believe that was a very brilliant way to use the time that he had to look at some of those ministries that were not looked at in the estimates, like housing. You know, all of these things are coming out, and he was able to just to give us enough, give us some understanding of what's happening in the government and all the monies and what's going on, and we are able to see the level of corruption. So I'm not sure. I think EZD, I can understand if we had a budget then, and he came and did this, then I could understand. But not having a budget, EZD, I think that he this was a brilliant choice, I think, of what he did. Dr. Ferdinand.
Well, you know, when I look at EZD's comments, the first thing that catches my attention is he said it's a typical lawyer's response. If that is so, it means he presented evidence, because that's what lawyers do, you know. To suggest that it's a typical lawyer's response that only has hearsay and innuendos would not be accepted in a court of law. You cannot come into a court of law with hearsay evidence. And I thought Mr. Thorne was very evidential in every single thing he said. He didn't have a budget to respond to, but he did comment on the expenditures of government. I recall him making these points, Marcia, in terms of the expenditure. Education was the most allocated of the monies. Secondly, followed by health. And then he lit into the Prime Minister's office being the third highest alignment of funding, $188 million. Then he mentions about the debt of the DLP left was well over 250 million. That is not correct, EZD. Mr. Thorne indicated that when they left office, the debt was stood at 15 billion Barbados dollars. The debt today stands at 15 billion Barbados dollars. And if the Prime Minister says that Barbados is what was the comment she used? You know, things are abuzz with activity and all of that. We should have seen a reduction in that debt. And he brought the details concerning the whole aspect of the borrowing, the amount of borrowing. He brought evidence. And here's my final comment, Marcia, which I said at the beginning of the show after he finished. And I don't know if you all may have heard me say this. Usually when a person in Parliament makes a comment and it is not accurate, the persons across will rise on a point of order.
It's their point of
and
order.
Indicate that the member is misleading the House.
Yes.
There was not one occasion in which he referenced a single document or expenditure or corruption level or anything he said that a single member of Parliament rose on a point of order. That suggests to me that they knew that what he was saying is true. And if they had risen on a point of order, he would have presented the evidence for the people of Barbados to see. In closing, with regards to the comment, I believe that their ploy over the next several hours, because they would be going on now and tomorrow, will be to try to discredit the messenger and try to get the attention on the messenger, not Mr. Thorne per se, but on the Democratic Labour Party, without having to give an account for the message that he has delivered.
Yeah, yeah. And so I don't fully understand this process. I thought so after he has finished giving his response, tomorrow is Wednesday. What happens tomorrow? Who knows? What happens
Well,
tomorrow?
it continues tonight. I believe each person will have 30 minutes. I believe each parliamentarian has 30 minutes in terms of their contribution to the debate. They will suspend the House at an appropriate time tonight. They'll probably take a break for dinner, and they'll probably come back. I doubt they're going to run past 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. They may even suspend the House after a few speeches, and then they'll come back tomorrow. I'm not sure, Rose, if they'll come back at 3, or if I think they'll probably come back earlier in the morning, probably from about 10 o'clock. And then each member will have 30 minutes. And at the end of that, I believe as a member of Parliament, the leader of the opposition should have another opportunity to speak, because he has spoken as the leader of the opposition, but he has not spoken as the member for Christchurch South. So I believe he should still be able to contribute from that perspective. But then the Prime Minister will wrap up the session, I believe, probably by tomorrow night, with her response to the leader of the opposition. I believe that is how it is done.
When I came on, as soon as the leader of the opposition finished, MP Ryan Thorne was the first from government bench cabinet minister to start off the rebuttal response. So up to that point, they had continued that process.
Yes. And that may go on for the rest of the evening, as I said, up to a point, they'll get tired probably. And if they don't suspend for dinner, which, it is 7 minutes to 9. I doubt they're going to suspend for dinner at this stage. I believe that they will probably have a few more speeches, and then the leader of the government business, the Deputy Prime Minister, probably or someone else would move for the suspension of the House until tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone is saying that, right, Thorne, he was a person after. Okay. All right. Yes. But Rose, you wanted to say something about education, because I have a young person who will be coming on, a young lady tonight. So I want to, she's coming on after 9. So you had something to say about education. Can we hear that now?
Yes, please. And thank you for this opportunity again. I listened to, as I said, to the Prime Minister last night. And I went back and I asked persons, so please indicate to me the segment in which she would have spoken to the show. And in listening, because I was listening to the Prime Minister's presentation while on the road yesterday. Every time I got an opportunity, I listened. And I missed that bit because we were in a public space when she spoke to the show about what's happening here. So I only picked in, it seems though I missed it brief. I had just missed it because I came in at the point, I rejoined at the point when she was talking about the scaffold that certain Barbadians are erecting to pull down Barbados. So then I realized, listening today again, that we could be that that figurative scaffold of which she spoke. And in listening, I became riled when I heard the Prime Minister saying that this group amongst us, we are saying that education reform, and I noticed it, education reform is producing, I have my notes here, education reform in their eyes intend to produce more dunces than Barbados produces salt bread. I don't know if that was intended to be funny, the last bit, but as you know, Marcia and Reverend Ferdy and the audience listening here, my passion for education, my commitment. And I have spoken on education reform in this forum, and I have always brought facts to you. I have always presented facts like the leader of opposition did. And I tell you my source. I have gone to 3 of the town hall consultations on education. The one at Princess Margaret, I presented, that was my first one. The second one was at Dighton Griffith. And the third was at Harrison College, but I gave way to other persons to speak. And never have I alluded or used the word dunces. I ticked off the areas that satisfied me in the proposal. And I did it, Marcia, up to my recent presentation in this forum. And I noted the areas for improvement, and I questioned the areas that were not clear. Never have we, myself, any of the panelists, or anyone in this chat, because I keep reading the chat, have we ever used that term, dunces?
No.
A dunce with someone, she said it. I wrote it down that amongst us in this audit.
You know, you're being nice. That's a lie, because the way how you're an educator, I'm an educator. We would never. We don't use those words. So that wasn't done on here. Go ahead.
And you all would know that from very early on, I shared why I have a passion for education and why I became a teacher. That at age 15 in 4th form, the late Mrs. Richard passed recently, not too long ago, called me an imbecile. Mm-hmm. And I said, I looked up the word imbecile, and I said, I would not allow anyone to call me an imbecile. And I was bent on being a air hostess, you know, that dream. And I made up my mind there and then to be a teacher. And I promised myself that I would not abuse or misuse my students by calling them names or being unkind to them. But I would help, and I've spent most of my time helping the slow learner, the student with special needs, even in adult education. And therefore, I am not pleased that that is attributed to us. And since I speak primarily on education, to me as an educator, I want to send a message to the Prime Minister. And this I quote, and many of you would know this. Speak the truth. Speak it ever. Cost it what it will. He who hides the wrong he did does the wrong thing still. And let me say it again. And this is directly to the Prime Minister and to all those who are part of her party, all those in the right shirts who support her and do not extrapolate the truth. And my concern is how many untruths were embedded in the presentation yesterday. In her exuberance, she may have unintentionally, and I would hope not intentionally, attribute that comment that we see education reform as producing dunces, more dunces than shortbread is produced. A dunce is someone who is dull or stupid. And there used to be, back in the 1600s, there was a dunce corner and the student was given a dunce cap. It is insulting to us, Prime Minister, to think that this is how your people who voted for you, who are out here agitating for improved education facility, for educational opportunities and facilities, would use that term or even think it. That is inappropriate. And I Googled for the connotation of dunce. I give you the literal meaning of dunce. A dull, stupid person who is slow at learning. That is not our intention, never has been, never will be. And I Googled to ask, what is the connotation of dunce? And Wikipedia says it is a mild insult. I even go further to say it is not a mild insult, it is a big insult. It is a gross insult. And I want us to be led by the truth and do not use opportunities when you are at a heightened state of delivery to attribute these untruths to persons who you feel will not respond. I take personal umbrage to that. That does not sit well with me. And I'm sure it does not sit well with others. And I want to say this. Ephesians 4:25 says, wherefore, putting away lying, speak every man truth with his neighbor. We are your neighbors. We are the public of Barbados who have put you there. Even if we didn't vote for you, we have to accept that you are the Prime Minister of Barbados. We are your neighbors. We are the Barbadian public. We are the people of Barbados. So put away lying and speak every man truth with his neighbor. For we are members one of another, whether I do not agree with you on some of the things that you may purport or put forward. We are seeing that we are all members of a community called Barbados, and we only want the best for Barbados. And I am going to make one other comment here, and I will hold at this particular time, Marcia, and I am not pleased at all, and therefore this is my comment to this. Please bear with me 1 minute. the things that God hates, and we also hate them. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a man who stirs up dissension among brothers. That statement can cause dissension.
Yes.
That statement can put us in poor light. I never ever said those things at education reform, but you know what has riled them? Our persistence and my persistence in asking questions about education reform, my persistence about asking for responses from the Ministry of Education and asking that the Minister of Education would respond and not through the PR consultant. My questions too that really riled at them when I asked for a budget for education reform, my persistent questions about the philosophy underpinning education reform, who is funding it, what are the philosophies of these donor agencies and these people who are funding education, my persistence in asking questions about the plans that teachers, children, and other stakeholders have to function in on a daily basis. And I note that when it should be the Minister of Education responding in the well, the Prime Minister in her presentation took upon herself to speak to the matters of education when, as the leader of the opposition, like ourselves pointed out, the chunks of money that go to education, the Minister of Education should have been responding and not the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister should be responding to what falls under her office. And therefore, she was the one to announce, and it is here in the newspaper, education reform pushed back to 2026. That should have been the Minister of Education's response if she were given the opportunity last week in the estimates. So she's being shielded, and the Prime Minister comes out and attribute to us that statement that we see education reform as producing more dunces. That means that there are dunces already in existence. Now, if you're looking for dunces, look for one in your own cabinet who does not know that Chapman Street is in the urban belt, in the heart of inner city, Bridgetown, and calls Chapman Street rural. Speak to your own minister if you're looking for dunces, who said the 31st of November. We all know 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All the rest has 31 days, except February alone, which has 28 and 29 in each leap year. We all know that. But that person talks about the hurricane season, which ends on the 31st of November. Look to the incompetencies amongst your cabinet and your various member of parliament. Look to their incompetencies incompetencies, and don't attribute these things to us. We are people who love Barbados, who want the best for Barbados. And I'm so pleased that the leader of opposition started off his presentation with a passionate plea for education. And he said that the Ministry of Education seems to be blight. It got a blight. It seems to have a blight. And that if the Minister of Education is not able or competent enough to manage it, well, say so and give it up. But do not attribute in your heightened state of excitement. Don't do that to us.
Yeah.
Don't do that to us. And that is where I come in. And I say it again to ourselves. I say it again to that side. And I say to the Prime Minister, and what bothers me, Marcia, what other untruths have we heard yesterday but was lost on us because some of us did not listen in because we were overwhelmed and didn't like the shouting that and the ranting and the raving and the shaming and the blaming. How much was lost on us? How much do we have to pull away to find the truth? And I close again by saying,
yes,
speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will. He who hides the wrong he did does the wrong thing still. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Thank you, Mrs. Corbin. Thank you, very, very. I'm looking for the adjective, but really very powerful. It seems like a cliche, but I think there's so much learning moments in there, and so as you were talking, I was just thinking about it, and I can say that that particular statement is a lie. And I don't mince my words. I'm not calling anybody a liar. I'm saying that statement that was made in Parliament yesterday is a lie. That did not happen on the show. That would not miss me at all because I don't believe in calling children names. And as an educator, I would never have gone for that. That didn't happen on this show. That's a lie. But we have with us Miss Shaquani Hunt. And I saw her at the Parliament, Shaquani, all dressed up. And you were the one who put the little flower. What do you call that? Is a what do you call a what? You're muted. She's unmuting. You're still muted. Let's see. You got it. Yeah, you're still muted. Okay, she's having some challenge unmuting. But guys, this is today into tonight. Actually, I went down to the Parliament and to see Mr. Thorne going in, and that's going into Parliament, and that's when I saw Shaquani Hunt, and Shaquani Hunt has been a guest, one of our earlier guests on the show, and so I'm like, girl, it's so good to see you, and then I saw her put in the little, what do you call it, Shaquani?
A corsage.
Right, the corsage was being put on Mr. Thorne, and she was given that responsibility as a young person. What did that mean for you, Shaquani? First of all, welcome to the Marcia Reed Show.
Thank you for inviting me back again. I know I haven't been here in a while, but that doesn't mean that I'm planning to stay away. I'm definitely be back a lot more in the future. Once Marcia will have me and the opposition will have me.
I love young people.
But it was an absolute honor to be a part of history, to be given the responsibility to just be there and to participate, because we want more young people to be active. We want to give them opportunities to flourish and to take on responsibilities so they can understand the importance and what showing up really means.
Yes, yes. And I wondered, I know you had to go back to work because in this economy, you gotta sometimes have about 6 jobs. And the young people, especially your age group,
Yeah.
you guys are working. I mean, you guys are in the hustle. So I don't know if did you get a chance to hear any of Ralph Thorne's speech today?
I did get to hear some of it. There was this particular part that I wanted to mention. I'm looking for it because I wrote it down, because when I heard it, I said this has to be the motto for the rest of the week, because I didn't think that people really understood how important it was when he made the statement, how can we shop without money? Only a thief can. And I was
Yes,
like,
I heard that. Repeat that, Shakwani.
how can we shop without money? Only a thief can. Because that is the reality. When he said that statement, I was like, that is so true. We're wondering why crime is raising, why we're having so many break-ins, why everything like that is increasing. But the reality is the cost of living is so high, it's so hard for persons. I heard, I think it was last night or night before, when you guys were on and you were talking about how many items you can get with $50.
Mm-hmm.
Reality is that some persons don't have $50 to shop with. So even if they have maybe a $10 or $20 bill, they're now trying to decide what is the most important items. And the only persons who are not deciding what to pick and choose when they go to the supermarket are persons who are not looking to spend money, who are looking to steal things. And
Mm-hmm.
because the cost of living is so high, we're actually forcing persons into these positions. We're forcing persons to speak about stuff like this. We're forcing persons in positions to have these difficult times. When you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, people cannot survive on the salary that they're getting. People cannot survive on the everyday living because it's too hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I say for your generation, because really and truly, I've never seen, I mean, the kind of hustle, your generation, they finish university or, tertiary level education,
Yeah.
and they are not like before, just to keep in the one job. They can't keep the one job. And I love the fact that Mr. Thorne started out his speech today talking about what people are facing. He talked
Mm.
about the high costs. He talked about inflation and the austerity measures that we're facing. And even though the prime minister is saying that the economy is growing, we're not feeling that growth, right? And
Yeah.
you're a young business person. Talk to me about that.
I can tell you, we were having this discussion tonight in class. Persons are working 2 and 3 jobs going to school, and they're still finding it hard. You imagine you having to work 2 and 3 jobs and you still can't make your ends meet, and you're still a full-time student or a part-time student. And people, imagine people who aren't even studying, they just have a regular 9 to 5 job. They
Right.
still can't afford to make ends meet, and it doesn't matter that they're saying that, oh, the economy is better, but it's better for who?
Mm.
Because I know it's not better for me. I don't know about you guys. Maybe they have something different up their sleeves. Maybe something is different in their household. But in my
Yeah.
household, it's not better for me, because I find the more hours you're working, it feels like you're not earning more money. It feels like expenses have increased. Gas has gone up. I told somebody the other day, when you put gas in your car, it's like you're basically putting in water, because it is gone. I find that times are so hard that persons are deciding to do without. They're just leaving out the necessities. I think it was Ralph said something today in his speech when he said, "Do you know any children who had to go without food today?" And people, I always say, people who make rules and recommendations, sometimes they forget. They forget that they don't understand what it is to go without, because they were never in a position like that. They don't understand why bus fare is so expensive and why we think bus fare is so expensive, because they don't catch the bus. It doesn't affect them or impact them, so they don't know that is hard for persons, or they pretend not to know, because it is really hard. People are trained to survive, but it's difficult to survive when you every turn there's a tax on something.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
like I told somebody, from the time bus fare went up, everything else consistently went up.
Mm.
Nothing came down since bus fare went up. I don't know if that was the single when they rang the bell and they were like, this is the increase that's going to start all the other increases. But you can definitely tell that people did not resonate in what the prime minister spoke about, because they're feeling a lot more hardship that she's speaking about. Even though the country may be doing better overall, I
Mhm.
find that the individuals, everyday Barbadians, are not doing better.
Yeah. So as
But
you
then,
said, you're saying for whom really?
yeah,
Early in the speech, in Mr. Thorne's speech, because I did not get to hear all of it like you. I had a class to teach. He said we want our country back. Did you hear that?
I heard that, and it when I came on, I think it was like maybe a almost 1,300 people watching him. 1,300 people was on at one point watching him, because I
But
was
can we
on.
compare that to last night? And the prime minister need to take stock. There, the highest she had was about 400 and something persons, period, watching, and he went up to 2,100 persons today. But continue with your point, please.
When I heard him say that today, I was thinking that we need this. We need the change, because persons are not resonating with what they're saying, because they feel like at every turn is some form of misinformation, some form of half truth. So persons cannot trust what they're saying, because every time they tell them something, they have to come back and adjust it. And because of the constant adjustments, it seems like they don't know what and when to believe them, because it doesn't seem like it's the truth. And it's hard to put your faith in a person when every time they open their mouth to speak is something different. The plan has changed, or the plan that they previously spoke about doesn't work anymore. I remember last budget when we were debating and speaking about the 17 mini stadiums. In this budget, I heard the revision where they were talking about the new placements of, I think, one up in the north and then one. So they were going to do two instead of the 17. And I said, in the first place, I felt like 17 was a little bit outrageous, because where would we put them? But also, even two, I feel like that is a big ask, because right now we cannot even maintain the national stadium. If you decide to build two additional stadiums, who's going to maintain them? Because that is our issue in Barbados. We build buildings, we create projects, and we have no maintenance plan. I don't understand how we create something or plan something and there's no plan or pathway of how to keep it running, no sustainability. So then the next 2 or 3 years, we're gonna see another notice or another person speaking about, oh, we need to create this new stadium again, even though we would have added two or three more. But that's the issue. If we don't have a plan for maintenance, it doesn't make sense having a plan to create something new, because it's going to end up just like the old thing. Not maintained, it's going to go to ruins, and nobody wants to spend or invest in it. Because I told somebody, yes, it's excellent to use the Royal Bradford Stadium, and I am thankful that we have the opportunity to use it. But the track is smaller than the National Stadium. Our is one less lane. The athletes have to run an extra, sometimes an extra lap. So when you're asking persons to step up their game, you're asking the students and the children to put in the work. But what was the benefits? What are they reaping? We're not investing in the future, as we said. I remember Mission Critical. I remember hearing all about the wonderful plans and ideas. And I remember when I looked that over, I told them Mission Critical was missing a lot of critical information. It was not ready because it felt like it had great ideas, but it did not have a solid execution plan. So then it would have a lot of difficulty getting the projects off the ground.
Correct.
And again, this budget, no, we have seen that Mission Critical did have some loopholes. They recognize that, which I do applaud them for. But again, it seems like they're unprepared, even though they have the staff and the finances to prepare better plans.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like, unfortunately, the government isn't quite ready. And I feel like they should be because they have had a year to refine the plans that they had from last year, create better plans, or have a better pathway. I don't feel like Barbados should have to call out the government because they have the resources to do better. And it's disappointing when they come unprepared or they say they're not quite sure. You have the resources to be sure. So you can't come to the people of Barbados and tell us, oh, this is the plan for the future, but we're not quite sure how we're going to get here. We need an additional year to work this out. But you did have an additional year to work this out. Because technically what they brought back was just the revise of the previous budget. So that means you already had that additional year. You still can't work it. That means something's wrong with your plan or your people are not doing their work. And I'm not going to say that every government worker is not doing their job because that is not true. Yeah. But we need to have more accountability and transparency when it comes to things like this. If you're going to plan for every single Barbadian, we need solid plans with clear pathways of how they're going to be executed. And we need checkpoints. We need to know, okay, this project has started in January, what we're expected to see when it comes in June. And if it's not going to happen, let us know. Don't lie to us, because the reality is that when you lie to us, we're not going to believe you or trust you when you come with another plan or a different update, because it seems like you're not sure. And as the government, you need to be more certain than us. Yeah. You can't look like you're not prepared or not ready. So for me, I don't feel like the budget that was presented by the Prime Minister was quite ready, because she has a whole cabinet, she has a whole team, they all have resources, and I feel like they could have put in a little bit more effort, because when you think about it, Ralph had himself. So him compared to them, it doesn't look good on their part, because they had way more resources, way more people and teams working to prepare a year in advance. They knew when the budget was going to be because they called it. So in my mind, if you had a year to prepare for something and you're still not ready, it tells me that you need to do some reorganizing, because people are not ready. Your staff did not prepare you for the budget, because that is what it seems like. You presented something that seems incomplete. And if it's incomplete after a year of preparation, why are you asking me for additional year? Because you had an additional year and you didn't do anything. So you need to do something else. It's not working. It's either you need to reshuffle. I don't want to ask anybody to resign. I don't want to be so bold to ask anybody to resign, but people really need to start pulling their weight, because it really looks like they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So imagine next year, you're going to tell me that, oh, unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to execute these plans, and we're going to ask for an extension for some projects until 2027.
Yeah. As you're a millennial, they call you guys, and it's refreshing hearing you, because sometimes you say, wonder if because we're of a certain age we're thinking this way. And there's something that you said there. You said when you heard that they were doing 17 stadiums across the country, in yourself, you knew that didn't make sense. It didn't make sense, and you didn't think it was attainable. And why would these adults, you're a millennial, they don't have any millennials, as an MP. Why would they sit down together as a cabinet and come up with that kind of foolishness? And there is nobody there to say to them, Shaquani, to say to them, well, but 17, does that make sense?
There's always this one person with an idea that sounds really, really good, but they never bring anybody in the room who knows how to execute the ideas. So you may have an excellent idea that may not be possible to execute. So along with the ideas, you have to have people who have experience in the field to tell you if this is feasible or not. Because if they could find locations to put 17 mini stadiums, please show me. Not because if you look at it, no, they have revised that plan. They're not going with that anymore because maybe it's not feasible. Who knows? Maybe in the future they might add a couple more. But the reality is that the size of stadium has to be, you have to look for a location that one has the amount of land required. What is going to be for running, is going to be for netball, is going to be what kind of sports is going to be at the stadium. I remember I told somebody the passer by lumber company was repaired like 3 times in 1 year. And every time I passed, I saw the person digging up the pastor. If it took so much time to get it right, and I don't even think it's right yet because they were patching potholes in the pasta, and I still think that the pasta is extremely horrible. If it took them so much time to get it repaired and maybe a little bit more, how they're going to maintain 17 mini stadiums and we can't even maintain schools? Think about it. We're having so many issues with schools currently. How can we add to the plate and then we're not offering more jobs? It's impossible to add 17 mini stadiums or even 2 more because you can't even get schools maintained. So if you're going to find resources and money to add 2 more stadiums, you could find time and resources and money to repair and renovate schools. And I told somebody, students were home for school at least 2 years during COVID. Why weren't the schools renovated during that period of time? Nobody was at the school. How would the renovations affected any students if they were home? So my thing is that we need more active thinkers, because if they had active thinkers at that time, they would have renovated all these schools during COVID when persons were home and the facilities were empty. Now they're trying to navigate renovating schools when children are at school. They have to be home. Like, they have to come up with maintenance plans for each of these schools, or whoever's at the schools responsible. They need to have a maintenance plan, because you can't 2 and 3 months you sending in complaints and reports, you getting specialists to come in, and then nothing is happening. It's just like a standstill. They need to wait another year for somebody to actually execute the plan or repairing the schools, or so our children are supposed to be home another year. It doesn't make sense. They're taking too long to fix problems which are endangering people, and then wasting time doing things that are not as necessary.
Yeah. And this is from a millennial, guys, and this is why I am a lover of young people. That's the truth, and I love to hear them because Miss Corbin, we would have the Barbados that will be in 20 years. It's them. It's what they're inheriting. When we move on, and this is their country, and I'm glad somebody's saying, "Oh, bring out the real warriors." No, the real warriors, they're the millennials. You see, we could sit and we could talk all we want. The Barbados we're fighting for is for them. So it's important that we hear them as well. The last thing I want us to talk about, Shaquani, before we bring Miss McLean in. I wasn't on at that time because I was so caught up with my class. But there was a lot that was revealed. A lot of seemingly corruption, allegations of corruption, and so on. Did you get to hear any of that? And as a young person, you're listening to that. What's going through your mind, Shaquani?
Well, I logged out right about the White Oak. And in my mind, it didn't make sense to me. As the young people would say, make it make sense. Because if the former prime minister, rest his soul, was going to do it for free, why did we pay $27 million for somebody to do it? If it could be done for free and at the same level. I'm not saying that maybe he would have not charged. Maybe he would have. But $27 million? No. For a company who was struggling, for a country who was struggling and had no money. Imagine you're saying that we had $0 or less than zero. But then you found or you borrowed $27 million to pay somebody to help us restructure that when somebody was going to charge just $0 to do it. Maybe I'm missing something. It could be because maybe we don't have all the information. That's why I'm going to label it as we don't have all the information, because maybe there was a reason why they paid $27 million for somebody to do it when they could have gotten it done for free. because it can't be that the former prime minister was not qualified or good enough to do it because he was running the country previously. So it cannot be that. It has to be something that they have not shared to the public as yet, because by that standard, we want back our money. Barbadians want back our money because it is not good enough. We need to hold the government accountable for their actions and their decisions. When they make decisions on behalf of Barbadians, they need to be able to answer for the decisions that they made. And if they cannot answer for the decisions that they made, we need to go back to the streets, Marcia. We need to march. We need to use our voices. And you said something earlier about millennials using their voices. They're the voices of the future. Every single person that is watching right now have a voice. You don't have to use your voice publicly, but using your voice, speaking up, your voice is just as good as any of our voices.
Yeah. You know, Shaquan, I just want to thank you so much,
Thank you
Shaquan,
very much for having me.
for coming on. And you know, it was great when I saw what was happening today, because we saw Miss McLean, you know, a younger version of you. Just I'm teasing her, and she had, you know, a bouquet of flowers. And you have the boutonnet. That somebody corrected us and said it wasn't a croissant.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, and thank you. It's all about education, and we do that here on the show. And you were both there, and you know, it really did something for me, looking on and seeing that, because you know, as I said, I am all for young people, and to see that you were involved in there. Let me just welcome Miss McLean at this time. Good night.
Marcia,
Good evening.
Good
Marcia,
evening.
Marcia, before we move on, I want to say thank you and for making your acquaintance known to me today. And I do hope that that will be good leaders and mentors to you, and examples that you and others can follow. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you
Marcia.
very much. I had to tell her today, you don't need to introduce yourself to anybody. We watch you almost every night. We know who you are. She was good about introducing herself. I told her, don't worry, we know who you are. We know your name.
Thank
That's
you very
wonderful.
much.
That's
And it was
wonderful.
great hearing to you. It was just, Maxie, you know the word that I was sending to you all the time, riveting. And it
Riveting.
was riveting listening to you.
So,
Yes.
Miss McLean,
Yeah.
welcome
Welcome. Yeah,
to
let
the
me
show.
just
I know
quickly
you
tell
must be
Shaquan
tired.
it was no, I am energized. I will when it was not 27 million barbers, it was 27 million US, $54 million, because you see, this is a
Thank you very
problem.
much,
This is a problem that we get. And I remember when the Attorney General was reporting on the building of the prison, that you hear currency, and then because I always tell people, tell me the currency, because you know, to say 27, they like it because it's twice that. But I let me start, Marcia. I think I'm sure that the Mr. Thorne would have been very pleased to see people there. Having heard him speak during the estimates, none of what he said surprised me. And before I get into that, I just want to say to Minister Strong, I know that it was a hard task coming after the leader of the opposition, and other colleagues of yours might not have wanted that task. But don't start by telling a lie, because you lied in my presence. And the lie was that everybody had left the chamber when the leader of the opposition was speaking. And I say to those, because I saw a couple comments going around associated with a member of the government and so on. I am happy to say that I am able to sit through most things because I'm retired. I have no babies to come home to prepare for, to take care of. I know that some of my colleagues had to leave because they had children to pick up, and you don't know what people's domestic situation in terms of being able to make arrangements and all of that. So when people, I believe somebody mentioned the name Pat Paris as circulating something, that's not important. They came, they demonstrated their solidarity, their support. People had to leave. I was happy. I had no plans to leave, and I did not have to leave. But I will say this, focus as Barbadians did on what the leader of the opposition had to say. I think that for the first time, a lot of Barbadians would have heard him speak. A lot of people know him as an attorney at law, practicing for several years. I think he mentioned tonight that he probably started practicing at about 1984. That'd be that is, I mean, 84. That's for 40 years or so. Thank you, Judith. But I was happy. I think that and as you would imagine, folks, there would have been a team of persons who assisted him in doing certain research, including our own Kimar. So there would have been people who helped him. But listening to him and watching him, he wasn't reading for the most part, except when he was reading extracts. He was speaking, but I guess that's part of his professional training. But
Yeah.
for me, let me focus on the substance. And this is where the people's role as an opposition really is an important one, because until now, this administration would not have been put under scrutiny in the way that he was able to do. And the truth is, from what he said tonight, he hadn't exhausted all the ministries. Because remember, we were dealing with the budget and the estimates, which really is about allocating funding to individual ministries. And Marcy, I like to write. These are my notes from tonight, But what I was happy that he was able to do, he went through the ministries, tourism, education. He spoke about the housing, of course, which was one of the last that he spoke about. The public service, mentioned people's empowerment. He identified a number of weaknesses. So I think in terms of, and I look at it as a teacher, a lecturer, evaluating a student who did an assignment for me or a presentation. And what I was happy was that there was a very structured approach to his analysis of the situation. It was very factual, because one of the things I noted that you didn't get the well, I suppose is a different room setting, but you didn't get the heckling that we saw in the Senate the last time that I watched a Senate debate. What I can tell you was that I also observed the members of parliament, and there was this kind of mood of, as I say, kind of, you kind of want to heckle him and probably try to cause him to lose focus or whatever. But as he got into the substance of the presentation, what I realized was that either for some people, some of the information might have been new. Some of it might have been a reminder of what they would prefer the public not to know. Some of it really demonstrated a contradiction of what the government has promised Barbadians: good governance, transparency, integrity, and so on. And I really must tell you, Marcia and Rose, that when let me look for the number, because Barbados is 166 square miles, see? And when you get a situation where you are told that, remember we've been talking about Hope Inc., huh? And we were talking about St. John, the pool land, and then we were hearing about Lancaster, but then you hear about Lower Burnie. But one of the things that Mr. Strawn said, not Mr. Strawn at all. I would like to hear him speak about this. One of the things that Mr. Thorne said was that 478.2 acres of land would have been turned over to Hope Inc. Now, that is a lot of land for a lot of houses. it bothered me because remember we were hearing about $60 million from the housing credit
Yes.
fund
Yes.
and so on. But then we started to get some additional information when I heard about that land. Now, and the Minister of Housing was there, Mr. Sutherland, I think he's Minister of Housing, and he was reminded that Barbadians were promised 10,000 houses in 5 years, which works out about 2,000 houses per year. $60 million later. The question is, with all of the projects you've heard of that Hope has been involved in, I would like Mr. Sutherland in his reply, because there was no interrogation of the Minister of Housing in the well of Parliament during the estimates.
Correct.
If he can tell us, one, each of those developments, what were the intended numbers to be constructed, where they have started, how many houses have been constructed, how many houses have been completed, how many houses are occupied. In the case, I think there's a development in Christchurch, is it Chancery Lane, where people have been complaining about the work and so on. So you know, but that's in all, Marcy. You know, the other thing that, and I had heard about the expatriates, one individual, because it started out, and I repeat this because nobody contradicted it. Nobody stopped Mr. Thorne and said, Mr. Thorne, your information is incorrect, right? So the fact that they did not stop him tells me that what he was saying was in fact correct. Now, remember, we had looked at a list of chairmen and board members and so on. Well, he said, and I appreciate his decency, that he was not there to embarrass anybody, to personalize. But I can tell you that he didn't mention names. But before I got in my house, good, because I came home, you know, less than an hour ago. I received WhatsApp messages with names of board members, and so on. So as I said to someone earlier, he didn't have to call names, because believe me, Barbadians will know the names of everybody before tomorrow morning. But this is what bothered me. Here you had a CEO at some point was paid $20,000 a month. That person departed, went along his business, whatever. The person is no longer there. Now you have a new CEO who has gotten a 50% increase and is earning $30,000 a month. But that $30,000 a month doesn't stay here to pay his rent, to pay his utilities, to operate a car, to go in the supermarket, to buy groceries, to take his family or friends out to lunch, to buy a bottle of wine or whatever. That money is paid to this person into an UK account. It was said that the person did not have a work permit. It was not questioned, it was not challenged, it was not refuted. And I wrote down a comment, and in revealing that information, Mr. Thorne said, "There's a stench waffling through the corridors of power."
Yes.
And that is a worrisome thing, you know, because you have. He also said that the chairman of this company was replaced. At one point, there was a former permanent secretary who was chair. That person is no longer there. They have a chairman who lives in South Africa. Now, I traveled to South Africa once on official business. It was the Prime Minister of Trinidad invited her colleagues. It was the memorial service for Nelson Mandela. And she was able to utilize a Caribbean Airways plane, and it took us 13 hours flying directly across the Atlantic to get to Johannesburg. But we are paying a chairman of a company that is supposed to be a PPP, a private-public partnership. I will remember. I'm gonna look. Somebody gave me another set of words for the PPP. Other than that, and I will look for it because that's what it is. But this is one. Now this person is supposed to be having board meetings by Zoom. Now I understand the use of technology. Now, if Mr. South Africa had established a company in Barbados and had invested a couple or multiple millions of dollars and so on, and chose to run his company like that, fine. My question to the government, because I can't get to talk to him, what is the nature of, because the impression given is that this company is perhaps one of the examples of a public-private sector partnership. And my question is, what are these so-called private partners put in there's so many pieces here, don't bite my tongue, let me be slow. What are these private sector persons within this PPP arrangement bringing to the table? Because what I'm hearing is that government has provided land to the tune of almost 490 acres of land will be in that, or has been invested in them for that project. And at the end of the day, they also got access because the funds were turned over to the company and nobody challenged it. I have to repeat it every time because I want people to understand that I am not making this up and I'm not saying something that was corrected in Parliament. The normal parliamentary procedure is that if a person on his or her feet says something that's not correct, the person who wants to correct can rise on a point of order or a point of, well, in the case, if you're telling, the person will rise on a point of order if they were sharing wrong information and simply say to the president, in the case of the senator, or to the speaker, John Brown is misleading the House or misleading the Senate. None of that happened. And therefore, I take everything that was shared in respect of this Hope Inc. to be accurate. And so my question is, why are you giving them everything? And if that is the case, it is not no private sector, nothing. Is it public resources being put in the hands of persons? I love the alliteration. What were you really doing and why? To me, it is more than scandalous, and I have to speak strongly about this because I sat in a place where decisions like this would have been made. And I would ask the question I'm asking now, what exactly were those parties bringing to the table?
Yeah.
And what is so special about a man sitting in South Africa? Because as I said, if they came to the government and said, look, we will partner with you in that we have land, you are bringing expertise and capital. So let's say you came with some innovative housing design, So I really, and the last thing I can say about this, I didn't realize it's so late, Marcy. It's almost 10 o'clock.
Yeah, almost 10. We have 6 minutes to 10.
The other thing I wanted to say that had me aghast was that in relation to Lancaster, because we talked about that, and you would have heard, I think, Caswell and or Kimar speak about this. And really and truly, people had bid to buy land at Lancaster. The land at Lancaster would have been sold to Barbadians who would then construct their own houses at $18 per square foot. What the House of Assembly was told this evening, and again, I say, no one refuted it, was that they canceled that arrangement. So for all those who thought that they had a piece of land on Lancaster to go and build their houses, that was changed. And the land was sold, the same land that was being sold for $18. I only got 10 fingers, 5 and then 3. For $18 was sold for $2 and a half, 50 cents. Half a finger, 2 fingers and a half. $2.50. Now tell me how in God's name in anybody. How can that be?
Mhm.
And so the question is now, if you see the water gets murkier and murkier, because and we really got to dissect this thing, because if this was one of those Hope Inc. projects, and you are vesting land, I mean we don't have enough time to delve it. I will come back to this, Marcy, because I want
Yeah.
to understand the arrangement with, and I just put the questions there. We come back.
Yeah.
What
Well,
exactly
we will
is
come
going
back. God
Mm.
willing, we might be here tomorrow. We should be here tomorrow, not
tomorrow?
might. The
Yes.
the content of the show, though, my wonderful panel, it might be, if Mr. Thorne is here, then he's gonna have the floor,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we will take questions from our audience, because it's really about the people. It's not just about, it's not about the four of us here or the five or six of us. So as we did when Mr. Thorne was here before Mrs. Corbin, but we don't know yet, because I don't know what is going to happen tomorrow, and if he's going to be up to it. But we've asked him, and
Okay. Great.
we will know by tomorrow if that is going to be possible. Regardless, we're going to be here and having discussion tomorrow, because there is so much to to unpack from that speech. I myself, I'm going to just put it in and just listen to it, because I missed class. I had to miss some of it because of class. But I'm going to listen, and but the thing that's coming to me, and before I ask you all to give your final words for the evening, I want to once again encourage Barbadians to come out on Saturday. I keep hearing two things. First, we want our money back. We want back our money. The second thing is this: we want back our country. And we need to make a public show of this. What we have heard tonight, we can't unhear it. You understand? We heard it, and it's a call for action. We want back with money, and we want back with country. They could not stand up on a point of order to say that anything was wrong tonight. That's what he was saying. They didn't stop him. Why is that? Why is that? I noted that. That I noted. Why? And Miss McLean so she was inside there. So I want to say to everybody, hit the streets, flood the streets. Let there be people like rice all over the streets. Saturday, 10 o'clock. Massy Car Park, Kensington Oval. Give it back with money and give it back with country. Simple. Simple. Okay. Let me go to Mrs. Corbin, and just give us your final thoughts before we go tonight.
A good day. It was a good day, and I'm pleased with the leader of the opposition's presentation and representation. I not only asked for money back, but I don't know if it's too late to ask of this government and its leadership for truth and integrity. What I have heard today coming from the floor would suggest to me that we have been misled and misled time and time again. I am being very decent. I am being very respectful by saying we have been misled. And therefore, we have enough information. We have enough facts and proof that should prompt us into action and let that action be translated into coming out on Saturday. We need our money back. We need truth. We need integrity. And we need responsible governance. And that all the above, we can say we lack here. And we have a voice, and let us do it with our feet.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Corbin. Do it with our feet. Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, once again, thank you for jumping right in there this evening and making this show happen. This is an extra show tonight, and you were right there. You took it on your shoulders and made sure it happened. Sir, what are your final thoughts tonight to the people of Barbados?
Well, first of all, Marcia, and I trust you can hear me okay.
Yes, I am.
First of all, just let me thank you for entrusting me with the responsibility of taking on the show on a night like tonight. I must tell you, anyhow, I'm just going to leave that. I'm just going to leave that right there, because I believe that tonight was the night that Barbados diaspora and local were listening, because they wanted to hear what kind of a response Mr. Thorne would have given to the now seasoned political leader of the Barbados Labour Party and Prime Minister of a 30-love parliament, how he would have responded. What I will say, Marcy, I don't know if you were in Barbados in the days of Tom Adams and Errol Barrow, but last night I struggled to compare the Prime Minister's speech with some of the budget speeches I have heard over the years. But tonight I had no trouble aligning Mr. Thorne to the Tom Adams reply to Errol Barrow of 1976. Maxine, I don't know if you would recall that reply that won the Barbados Labour Party the government. Because last night what we heard was not a budget, we heard a political speech, because you'll remember that I ended by saying that it sounded like the Prime Minister was preparing the country for an election. If that is the case, Mr. Thorne's speech tonight equated in my mind to the Tom Adams speech, and he has won the election.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ferdinand Nichols. And Ms. McLean, and before you go, let me just, people I know wonder, where is Mr. Franklin? Remember, he's dealing with the nurses, he's dealing with BRA, and Tuesdays are usually the nights, Tuesday nights, he would use to have his meetings with his union. So he did tell us that up front, but I know he'll be, God willing, he'll be here tomorrow, and he'll be ready to go. Thank you, Miss McLean. You've been out the entire day, most of the day, and you still found the time to be with us tonight. Thank you so much. We appreciate the work that you do, ma'am. What are your final thoughts to us tonight?
I'm here looking a little dismayed, because as we talk, I'm looking at my phone, and there's a WhatsApp message, because as I said, I didn't drive to Parliament today because I figured it being kind of congested and so on. So I got a lift home with Ryan Walters, one of my colleagues, and I was commenting about the fact that Mr. Thorne didn't call names, and I said to him, before the night is ended, we will have all of those names. And I will tell you, we've discussed this whole thing on this show a couple of times. But what I am seeing here, it is criminal. I am serious. It is. I mean,
yeah.
We were asking, where is this 60 million? But when I start to look at some of the things here, and you know what? Let me use pool as an example. We have some things that went on there, and God knows if a house will be completed in all of that, because it isn't only a question of land titles not being given. I mean, people are making decisions as though like we're in the Wild West. We're not, back in the days, you used to watch Western movies, and you went where you call the frontier. You went out there in the middle of nowhere, and it was just bounty hunters and who, and you just, the wild, wild west. I mean, it is really, really worrisome because this is only one issue. This is only one issue. But the thing is, and I heard the word incestuous being used, but I'm seeing names. What a tangled web
Yes.
Mhm.
is
Yes.
that's being woven as we talk. I mean, because we are now seeing the web and the tentacles of the spiders. This is worrisome. And I say to the Prime Minister and her 28 colleagues in the House of Assembly and those in the Senate, pay some attention to the business of the people. And I'll stop here, Marcy, in a minute. A woman once said to me in a conversation, we were talking and I was bemoaning the incomplete projects, the several projects that were started or not started or started and stopped. And this woman said to me, she said, I've given it a long, hard thought and I've been thinking about it. And her interpretation of the situation was, it is not about finishing projects. This thing looks like it is enriching a handful of people. And that, Marcy, is what I think is being revealed by some of these projects.
Mhm.
And I mean, you see names going back to the original Four Seasons back in 2005 and so on. And I relate to that because I will never forget the day when I drove down past my family house in Blackrock and saw what I call the Ball Paradise Beach, where all the trees and the vegetation had been cut down for this Four Seasons project. And we are now at 2024
Not a thing.
and nothing. And
And the
and
Prime
some of
Minister was the
the
attorney.
same characters, the same names are appearing over and over again.
Yeah.
Barbadians will not, put it this way, Barbadians have now had their eyes open. That is what I will say.
Yeah. In light of what has happened, Miss McLean, speak to the can you speak to the people on this march?
I certainly, Marcia, will be part of the march because contrary to what the attack on you and this program was saying, we are not marching like the grand old Duke of up and down for nothing. We are marching because you are saying to the people of Barbados, while we cannot effect immediate change, we have to register our frustration,
And
our
dissatisfaction.
disapproval,
Yes.
and our demand for change. So the Prime Minister can try to belittle it all she wants. I think that I saw more a feeling of impact. I was trying to find the right word, but what she's feeling is the impact of what we're doing. This is not any game playing. This is not some partisan political group of people people are talking about talk about you want back your money, and you said you want to take back Barbados. And I will tell you, I'm sure that, as I said, people are now saying they had no clue about and that's only one. I mean, for example, I spoke about one thing, but we can go through several other issues. And every time you look around, there are things that will cause us to hold our heads and bawl.
Yeah. As you said, it's time to march, and Dewdrop saying, let we march for freedom and quality of life. Let we march. We need to get rid of them. We need the Prime Minister to go. We need answers. We want back our money. We want back our country. I believe that people have reached that level there. They're fed up. And we can do it in a legal way. And the legal way, we get all of our our documents, all of the permits, and we hit the streets and come out in your numbers. If you're BLP and you're frustrated, you come, because there are lots of BLP who are frustrated. You're DLP and you're frustrated, come. Whatever the party is, whatever third party you're part of, and you're
Or no
frustrated,
party.
you want to see change in this country. This
Yeah.
march is for
Yeah.
you.
Come.
Everybody
Come.
come out on Saturday.
Come.
We're not marching on a no party banner. We're marching. Listen, this is a banner we're marching under. This one right here. Okay. So see you all. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Shakwani, for coming on. I didn't get to tell
Mar-
her thank you. I know she's, yes, you're saying something, Doctor?
Yeah, Marcia, just before you go off, I think it is noteworthy that on a show like tonight, which is not scheduled, we had, and I'm looking at it right now, we have over 1,200 people viewing. And this is not a
Yes.
scheduled show.
Not a schedule.
I
And
think
it
that's
actually went
noteworthy.
up to 1,300
Yes.
at one point. And we must say, as I said earlier, about the tonight, and this is a sign, I believe, of things to come. The opposition, why the leader of opposition, when he was on, his views were over 2,000. And
Yes.
the prime
Yes.
minister was only up to about
Up to 400.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a sign to come. Yeah. Of things to come. Okay. Thank you all so very much. God bless you. God bless you. Have a great night. Get rest up, and we're back here tomorrow night. All right.
Will do.
Bye-bye.
Will do. Take care. Have a good
Good
one.
night, everybody.
Take care, Rose. Bye bye.